What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Poundtown Sports Podcast, hosted by Joey Malari. So tonight is the first and the second round of the MLB Draft. Going to give a big breakdown of my mock draft for the first round, including the compensation picks and the competitive balance picks as well. The draft will begin at 7 p.m. on MLB Network. I'm a big fan of every draft, NBA, NHL, NFL, MLB. Obviously, seeing kids' dreams come true is very special, and then I also just like seeing how every single team strategizes what they want to do with their draft, whether it's a team that's rebuilding or a team that's in win now. Every single draft, every single team is in a unique situation. That's why the draft is so hard to predict, and the MLB Draft, I would say, is the most difficult to predict of those four sports that I just named, because first off, the MLB Draft gets the least amount of coverage, and secondly, you're also drafting high school players, college players, you're basing it off of slot value, which that's the MLB way of trying to keep an even balance of competition between teams. So each team will get a certain amount of bonus money they can use in the draft. And based on where they draft players, they'll offer each player a certain amount of money. But they are limited by the total amount of money they can give out to each of their draft picks. And that's what makes the MLB Draft so unique, is there's so much strategy to it. For example, you could have a pick where it's an underslot pick where you can give a player less money where you draft them. And then that saves money where you can get better talent at the end, let's say, of the second or the third round by paying those guys a little bit more money than what their slot value is for that pick. So let's say you give your first round pick $4 million rather than the $6 million that their slot value is. That saves you $2 million that you can use on the rest of your draft picks. So if you get a guy that falls into the second or the third round, you can lure them back into trying to sign a contract with your professional baseball team rather than choosing to go back to college to try to be a first-round pick. That doesn't usually happen. Kids typically go back only if they're falling out of like the fourth, fifth, sixth round. But at the end of the day, it does help having money to use on those draft picks that do fall, that you do end up getting good value on in the second and the third round. So let's start off with my first overall pick, Cleveland Guardians. I've been taking a third baseman / outfielder in Charlie Condon out of Georgia, 6'6", 216 pounds, a great power hitter, hit 37 home runs last year, 78 runs batted in, 433 batting average, a 1009 slugging percentage with a 1565 OPS, had 28 intentional walks as well, a former walk-on at the University of Georgia. He has the chance to go first overall tonight. His raw power is the best in the class, unreal bat speed as well, 6'6", very tall frame, and also could be a corner infielder at the next level. I know he played third base and outfield in college. I think he could end up being a first baseman at some point at the major league level, but he's my first overall pick. At number 2, I have the Cincinnati Reds taking Travis Bazzana, a second baseman out of Oregon State. He won the Cape Cod League batting title last season with the Falmouth Commodores. Also was the MVP of the league as well with the 375 batting average last summer. He hit 28 home runs this past season for Oregon State with 66 runs batted in, a 407 batting average, and a 1479 OPS. Very good speed as well. He stole 30-plus bases as a sophomore. I think he can still play second at the next level. I know that's something that people have had their critiques about. I still think he can be a second baseman at the next level. He would be a good pick here for the Reds. At number 3, I have the Colorado Rockies taking a left-handed pitcher, and that's Hagen Smith out of the University of Arkansas, a 6'3", 224-pound pitcher. The Rockies only have one pitcher in their top 12 prospects, and that's Chase Dollander, who they took in last year's draft. Hagen Smith is right there with Chase Burns as the best pitcher in college baseball, the two best pitchers in this overall draft. Right now, I may give the edge to Hagen Smith, but Chase Burns is right there. It's very hard to pick between those two players. I think if you look at Hagen Smith's game, 94 to 97 is where his fastball sits, gets up to 100 miles per hour. His slider is elite with so much break. He mixes in a cutter as well. His arm slot is unique, which is why it's tough to hit him. He can have stretches where he struggles to get pitches in for strikes. He was 9-2 this past season with 16 starts, 161 strikeouts and 84 innings pitched, which is ridiculous. 17.3 strikeouts per 9 innings and a .893 whip. He is my number 1 pitcher overall in the draft, but it is very close. At number 4, I have the Oakland Athletics taking a right-handed pitcher, and that's Chase Burns out of Wake Forest. His fastball sits 97 to 99, gets up to 102, had an unreal season at Wake Forest. Had the pleasure of seeing him dominate in person. It was a sensational game against BC. I had the pleasure of meeting Burns and Nick Kurtz after the game. Got their autographs and a picture with them. Two very nice kids, and I'm rooting for them to obviously do big things at the next level. Burns was great this past season for Wake Forest, a 10-1 record in 16 starts, a 2.7 ERA, with 191 strikeouts and 100 innings pitched, with a 17.2 strikeout per 9 innings total, which is very, very good, and a .92 whip. His slider had a 60% swing and miss rate this past season. He mixes in a solid curveball as well. I think he is an ace at the next level. I'm excited to see what he does, and I think the Oakland Athletics would have a great pick here at number 4 if they were to get him. At number 5, I have the White Sox taking Nick Kurtz, a first baseman out of Wake Forest, a 6'5", 235-pound first baseman, hit 22 home runs, had 57 runs batted in, a 306 batting average with a 531 on base percentage, a 1294 OPS, and 42 strikeouts to 78 walks. You heard that correct. 42 strikeouts to 78 walks this past season. Mike Sirota and Nick Kurtz's plate disciplines are a true art when you watch these two guys play. They know the strike zone better than anyone in the game in college baseball. As for Kurtz, he was a captain this past season for Wake Forest, which obviously shows a lot of leadership. He had 7 straight games with a home run this past season at one point, including 11 home runs over that 7-game stretch. Ridiculous raw power, especially seeing it in person. Such a unique talent. I see superstar potential at the next level when I watch Kurtz play. He would be a great pick here at number 5 for the White Sox. At number 6, I have the Royals taking a left-handed pitcher / first baseman in Jack Caglione. He's a two-way player out of the University of Florida. He had 2 straight years with 30-plus home runs, including 35 this past season with 72 runs batted in, 26 strikeouts to 58 walks. So obviously a very good player at the plate with plate discipline. Walks a lot more than he strikes out. He does swing at some junk sometimes and he makes good contact. A .419 batting average with a 1419 OPS. He had a 5-2 record on the mound with a 4.76 ERA. 83 strikeouts and 73 2/3 innings pitched. His fastball gets up to 100 miles per hour. Loved going to his cutter as well this season a lot. So his fastball and his cutter are his 2 main pitches. I think he projects more as a first baseman at the next level, not a pitcher. As of right now, it seems like he's going to try to be a two-way player, but I think he'd be better just being a first baseman rather than being a pitcher. At number 7, I have the Cardinals taking outfielder Brady Montgomery out of Texas A&M, 6'2", 220 pounds, 27 home runs this past season with 85 runs batted in, a 322 batting average, a 733 slugging percentage with an 1187 OPS. He did also pitch as well in 27 games in college, had a 9.09 ERA, likely his pitch for his last time, I would say. His fastball does get up to 96, but control is a major issue. Maybe there's a team that could potentially get him, maybe work on some of his stuff pitching, but I think he would be better as just a position player at the next level. He is a switch hitter, which is something that can definitely be an advantage for him. Power is great. That is something that he showcased a lot this past season, but it seems to be that he has more power as a better hitter as a lefty, I would say. He did play in the Cape Cod Baseball League as well last season for Yarmouth Dennis. Would be a great pick here for the Cardinals. At number 8, I have the Angels taking J.J. Weatherholt, a second baseman / third baseman from West Virginia. He's only 5'10", 190 pounds, but he gets the bat to the ball just as good as anyone in the draft. He swung and missed just 10% of the time in 2023. The Angels are known for drafting players that are MLB ready within a year or so. That's been their strategy over the last 2 or 3 years, especially when they had Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. Their strategy was getting win-now players that can play at the MLB level sooner rather than later to try to help Trout and Ohtani. I think that still is the case. I still think they're looking for players that can play right now. I know they're still struggling, and they're technically rebuilding, I would say, especially where they currently stand. They're probably still a year or 2 away from potentially competing. But this is Perry Madazian's last draft in Anaheim, potentially. His contract is up after the season's over, and I don't think they're necessarily going to bring him back. I do think Chaim Bloom would be great in Anaheim. I think he ends up being their GM after the season's over. We'll see how things work out. But with Madazian still being there, I think his strategy is still to try to get guys that can contribute sooner rather than later. And I think potentially Weatherholt could be the second baseman of the future. He hit 8 home runs, 30 runs batted in, had a 331 batting average with a 589 slugging and a 1061 OPS this past season. Now moving on to number 9, I have the Pirates taking outfielder James Tibbs III out of Florida State, an absolute masher who I saw play in person against BC this past season. He is a great hitter, a left-handed batter with a ton of upside. I think he's a cleanup hitter at the next level. He's hard to get a fastball by, but he has struggled with breaking balls, so he needs more work with that. But he did hit 6 home runs in the Cape Cod Baseball League last summer for Brewster with a 303 batting average in 40 games. This past season for Florida State, 28 home runs, 95 runs batted in, a 363 batting average, and a 1264 OPS. He is a very, very good talent. At number 10, I have the Nationals taking Connor Griffin, a shortstop / outfielder from Jackson Prep in Mississippi. He would be the first Prep player taken if this is the way the draft goes, which I'll be wrong with a lot of these picks. The MLB draft is so hard to predict because obviously the draft coverage is not the same as the NFL draft and NBA draft, so you're not really hearing as much about what teams want to do. There's not many rumors spreading around the MLB draft where you can see where teams are interested in what guys as much as there is in the NFL and NBA drafts. As for the MLB draft as well, you also have to factor in the slot value situation where players might get drafted, 20 picks before they should get drafted because a team wants to spend a little bit less money on signing a certain player to save money for other players further down the line. So there's a lot more strategy with how much money you pay players with the MLB draft. So I'll probably be wrong with a lot of these picks, but that's just the way the draft goes with the MLB, and obviously that's the beauty of the draft. It's really hard to predict. As for Connor Griffin, some scouts believe he could be a 30 home run, 30 stolen base threat at the major league level. That's very hard to predict, but when I do watch him play, he's only 18 years old. There's a lot of upside to his game, and the Nationals right now are rebuilding. They can wait 2 or 3 years for him to make it up to the major leagues. And if you look at what the Nationals are doing right now, they're rebuilding so well, and they can wait for players to take their time in the minor leagues. They don't have to rush anyone. What Mike Rizzo was doing with that team has been so special over the last few years. After trading Juan Soto and getting so many prospects back in return, he's done things the right way there in Washington. He's building an NL East dynasty for years to come. I have been a big fan of what they've been doing as of late. Now moving on to the Tigers, I have them taking shortstop Bryce Rayner out of Harvard Westlake High School in California. He's 6'3", 195 pounds. He has been a two-way player in high school, with the fastball getting up to 95 miles per hour, but I do think he's probably just a middle infielder at the next level. He can spray the ball around the field with a ton of bat speed. The ball flies off his bat, and the school he played for has had a lot of talent go to the MLB, so obviously he's had a ton of eyes on him just being in a program that's been so historic and so special in California. I also think his arm is strong from shortstop as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how things work out for him in the draft, considering prep shortstops. There's always a few that go high in the draft, but I don't have any prep plays being taken until the 10th overall pick here in this mock draft. Next up, I have the Red Sox taking Trey Savage, a pitcher out of East Carolina who is 6'4", 230 pounds. Yasavage has been an unreal pitcher in his college career. He is the swagger of a major league ace. His fastball sits 93 to 95 miles per hour, gets all the way up to 98, has a dominant cutter. I would love to see him be on the Red Sox. At number 12, it would be a steal to get him there. I think he's a future ace in the MLB. He's had an ERA under 3 in 2 straight seasons. He was 11-1 in this past season with 15 starts made, 11 wins, 1 loss, with a 2.03 ERA, 145 strikeouts, and 93 in the third innings pitched, with a .868 whip and 14 strikeouts per 9 innings. The Sox only have one pitcher in their top 8 prospects. I think it's time to stop building their future pitching prospects by getting a top college pitcher here with the 12th overall pick, a guy that was so dominant during his college career for East Carolina. At number 13, I have the Giants taking a third baseman / outfielder from Wake Forest, and that's Seaver King. Saw him play against BC. Wake Forest had a ton of scouts in attendance to see these guys play, with Kurtz, King, Burns, 3 top 15 picks all in the same lineup. King is a very unique player. He can play a lot of positions on the field, middle infield, third base, outfield. He has very good bat-to-ball skills as well. His bat speed is elite. And my favorite part of his game, he runs out to his position every single inning. That's something I noticed when he played against BC. You could tell he loves to play the game of baseball. At number 14, I have the Cubs taking Tommy White out of LSU at third baseman. Has hit 24 or more home runs in all 3 college seasons he's played in. This past year, he had 24 home runs, 70 runs batted in, a .330 batting average with a 1039 OPS. He had 75 home runs over 3 years of college baseball. That's 8th all-time in D1 baseball history, with a .355 batting average and 1123 OPS in 187 games. He swings at a ton of junk, but always seems to make contact. I think he's more of a first baseman at the next level rather than a third baseman. We'll obviously see how things work out there. At number 15, I have the Mariners taking Caleb Lomavita, a catcher out of the University of California. He had 15 home runs with 52 runs batted in, a .322 batting average, and a .981 OPS this past season. He's a very good hitting catcher, and that's something that the game of baseball does not have much of. He can also run well for a catcher as well. Those are 2 attributes that seem to help you make the next level a lot easier as a catcher. If you're a catcher that can hit and a catcher that can also run as well, those are 2 things you don't really see much from major league catchers nowadays. At number 16, I have the Marlins taking a second baseman, and that's Christian Moore out of Tennessee. He's not a patient hitter at the plate. He will swing a junk at times, but his power is top-notch. 34 home runs this past season, 74 runs batted in, a .375 batting average with a 1248 OPS in 72 games. His bat speed is strong. His fielder could use some more work. Miami is rebuilding, so they could take a young high school prospect here that does drop with some big league potential. But if a guy like Christian Moore falls all the way to 16, Miami would have to take him in my eyes. 34 home runs, .375 batting average, 1248 OPS. You cannot really say no to a player like that if he falls all the way to 16. At number 17, I have the Brewers taking a third baseman. That's Cam Smith out of Florida State. He had 6 home runs with a .347 batting average in 44 games last year for Hyannis in the Cape Cod Baseball League. This past season for Florida State, He had 16 home runs, 57 runs batted in, a 387 batting average with an 1142 OPS. He has become much better at making contact and missing less when he's swinging at things that are outside the zone and in the zone. Has become a much better hitter over the last couple of years. He would be a good pick here at number 17 for the Brewers. At number 18, I have the Rays taking a left-handed pitcher / outfielder in Kim Caminiti, who's a high school prospect from Arizona. The Rays have been a factory for years at developing young talent and drafting young talent. So Caminiti would be a good pick here. He's only 17 years old. He's committed to play for LSU. His fastball gets all the way up to 98 miles an hour on the mound. He sits around 93 to 95, but he does control the zone very well with his fastball. His curveball could use a little bit more work. I do think he probably is more of a pitcher at the next level rather than a hitter. We'll see how things work out. It could depend on the team. He could still be a two-way player depending on what team drafts him. At number 19, I have the Mets taking Billy Amick, a third baseman out of Tennessee. He had 23 home runs this past season with 65 runs batted in, a 306 batting average, and a 1026 OPS. He's an aggressive batter who is not projected to be a lock for the first round, but I think he's better as a prospect than some people are expecting. Obviously, at the end of the day, like I already mentioned, players can fall from the first round to the second round just based off of their slot value and whether or not teams want to pay them the money that they could potentially get at whatever pick they're taking. If a player that could have been a top 10 pick ends up going at 20, they're going to demand money that the top 10 pick would get, essentially. So obviously a guy like Amick could potentially be one of the top talents left at number 19, but the Mets may say, no, we don't really want to give him the money that he may want there at 19, so they may take an underslot pick there and take somebody that could be, projected for the 35th pick, essentially, and then only pay them less money so they can save money for the rest of their picks for the rest of the draft. So there's a lot of strategy with the MLB draft, like I noted. Without Amick, who knows if Tennessee wins the College World Series this year? He was a big, big part of that program winning their first title ever. At number 20, I have the Blue Jays taking a second baseman / shortstop in Theo Gillen out of Westlake High School in Texas. He's the best high school hitter in the draft. His arm is probably his weakness right now. He did just get shoulder surgery, so we'll see how he does do with his recovery. I think he's probably more of a second baseman at the next level, regardless of the shoulder surgery. I think he's probably better as a second baseman just based off of arm talent. Probably doesn't have the arm for shortstop. I think second baseman would be better for him. Toronto is coming close to being in a rebuild mode, so in that case, you might as well take a very talented prep player who fell all the way to 20th overall. At number 21, I have the Twins taking a right-handed pitcher, and that's Brody Brecht out of Iowa. He had a 4-3 record at 15 starts, 4 wins, 3 losses, a 3.33 ERA, with 128 strikeouts and 78 and a third innings pitched, with a 1.21 whip and a 2.61 strikeout to walk ratio. He has struggled with control on the mound. His fastball hovers around 96 to 99, gets all the way up to 100. Control is what's stopping him from being a top 15 pick. At number 22, I have the Orioles taking Vance Honeycutt, an outfielder out of UNC. He smoked 28 home runs with 70 runs batted in and 28 stolen bases. Had a 318 batting average and an 1124 OPS this past season. He has legitimate 25-25 potential at the next level. Has a very strong arm, a great overall fielder as well. One of the most underrated prospects in the draft. You need him swinging at better pitches. That's one thing you could say when watching him on film, but would be a very good pick here for the Orioles. At number 23, I have the Dodgers taking Mike Sirota out of Northeastern, a very good outfielder prospect. This landing spot would be perfect for Sirota. It's important to note the Dodgers did draft him in the 2021 MLB Draft coming out of high school. It took one game in person at Northeastern in 2022 for me to say that this kid is a 5-tool player and a future first-round pick. Whatever team gets him is getting a gem and a future MLB All-Star. He had 304 in the Cape League with a 1037 OPS and 3 runs batted in 8 games last summer. He also hit 339 in 18 games for Hyannis in 2022 with a 974 OPS, 2 home runs, and 14 runs batted in. As a sophomore at Northeastern, he had 18 home runs with 54 runs batted in, 19 stolen bases in 21 attempts, also had a 346 batting average and an 1149 OPS that season. This past season, a 298 batting average with a 986 OPS, 7 home runs, and 37 runs batted in. I saw him play dozens of times at Northeastern, and I see superstar potential when I watch this kid play. Whatever team is getting him is getting a future star and a guy that's very much under the radar right now. Mike Sirota deserves more respect and deserves more credit from scouts. But no matter where he ends up in the MLB draft, this kid is going to be a star no matter where he is. And he definitely deserves more respect like I noted. And we'll see how things work out. We'll see where he gets drafted. But whatever team gets him is getting a future star in the outfield. He's a 5-tool player like I noted. That's one thing I noticed. The first game I went to at Northeastern, he was a 5-tool player that could do everything you need. Such a patient player at the plate, a very good arm in the outfield, very good speed, Very good contact hitter, very loyal to the Northeastern program, which obviously shows who he is as a person. And when you watch him play, you see the talent. You see the talent on film. You see it when you're seeing him in person. He obviously has the star potential, and I'm excited to see where he goes in the draft. Wishing him all of the best, and no matter where he ends up, I'll be rooting for him. At number 24, I have the Braves taking a shortstop, and that's Wyatt Sanford out of Independence High School in Texas. His defense and speed are two of his strongest attributes. Will likely be a first-round pick even without the best of power. He's only 18 years old. The Braves are another team like the Orioles that seem to always develop talent so well by drafting young players. We'll see how things work out there, but I think he would be a good pick there at number 24. At number 25, I have the Padres taking a right-handed pitcher, and that's William Schmidt out of Catholic High School in Louisiana. His curveball is elite. On MLB.com, it says his curveball has a spin rate of 3,000 RPMs, which is great. But it does make me worry since he's only 18 years old, and chasing spin rate has hurt a lot of today's pitches in the game of baseball. His fastball gets all the way up to 99, and his ability to throw strikes is great. I would really like to see this pick here for the Padres. They've given up a lot of prospects over the last few years, trading for Juan Soto, trading for Dylan Cease, trading for Luis Arraez. Obviously, trading Juan Soto and getting some prospects back in return helps. But at the end of the day, I think they should go out and get a young pitcher like William Schmidt. That would be a good pick here at 25. At number 26, I have the Yankees taking a switch-handed pitcher, which is very unique out of Mississippi State, and that's Gerangelo Sanja, who is ambidextrous, can pitch with both arms, which is obviously so unique. 3.67 ERA this past season with an 8-2 record in 17 starts. You also add in the fact that he had 113 strikeouts in 90 2/3 innings pitched with a 1.1 whip. Being able to switch to being a right-handed pitcher against a lefty is a major analytics advantage in today's game of baseball. We'll see how things work out with them in the game of baseball. He might just have to pick one side at the next level. But as a righty, his fastball can get all the way up to 98, 99 miles an hour. As a lefty, it hovers around lower 90s, 92, 93 miles an hour. But it seems like he could be a better righty pitcher from what I've seen. And we'll see how things work out. But he will be a first-round pick likely in tonight's draft. At number 27, I have the Philadelphia Phillies taking Ryan Sloan, a right-handed pitcher out of York High School in Illinois. On the mound, Sloan had a .18 ERA this past season with a .5 whip in 39 2/3 innings of work. He had 79 strikeouts to just 4 walks. He was dominant all season long. His fastball gets up to 99 miles an hour. He loves going to his changeup. He's a big kid, 6'5", 220 pounds. Will only get stronger as time goes on. He's my top prep prospect in this year's draft. At number 28, I have the Astros taking Walker Yannick, a catcher out of Sam Houston State, who won the Buster Posey Award for the best catcher in baseball in college this past season. A very good defensive catcher. When you account for his defense and his ability to hit, he could rise up to the majors rather quickly if things do work out at the minor league level. He hit 17 home runs this past season with a 58 RBI total, 13 stolen bases, a 364 batting average, a 709 slugging percentage, and an 1185 OPS. He can play some third base and some outfield as well, but I do think catcher is probably where he starts out at the next level. At number 29, we have the Diamondbacks taking Dakota Jordan, an outfielder out of Mississippi State, who had 20 home runs this past season, 72 runs batted in, 354 for a batting average, a 671 slugging percentage, and an 1129 OPS. He does strike out a lot, 84 times this past season. That's something he has to work on, is swinging at better pitches and picking the right pitches to swing at. Obviously, things that are outside the zone, he's got to try to stay away from. His power and his speed, though, are both on the plus side, which is the reason he's going to go high in this draft, in my opinion. From the brief film I saw of his, I think he can be a good steal towards the end of the first round. At number 30, I have the Rangers taking Carson Benj out of Oklahoma State, a good outfielder who had 18 home runs this past season for Oklahoma State with 64 runs batted in, a 335 batting average, and an 1109 OPS. He had a 3-2 record on the mound. He also could pitch, a 3-2 record on the mound in 18 games played with a 3.16 ERA, 44 strikeouts, and 37 innings pitched. Does not seem like he'll be pitching at the next level. His fastball does get up to 96, but I think he's more of an outfielder at the next level. He does have a plus arm, has a plus fielding grade as well. Very good all-around player who has all-star potential at the MLB level. At number 31, I have the Diamondbacks taking a right-handed pitcher, and that's Ben Hess out of Alabama. 6'5", 255 pounds, very big frame for Hess. 5-5 record on the mound with a 5.8 ERA. But if you look at his record in 2023 in 7 starts, he was 4-0 with a 3.22 ERA. His fastball gets all the way up to 99, and his slider is very dangerous. Control needs to be better. That's his main issue, is control. But his slider and his fastball are worth taking a risk on with that high upside. He does also have some injuries that have plagued him in the past, so that's something that some teams will definitely worry about when trying to draft him in this year's draft. At number 32, I have the Orioles taking a left-handed pitcher, and that's Cash Mayfield out of Elk City High School in Oklahoma. A 97-mile-an-hour fastball with very strong control. He's committed to play for Oklahoma State. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. Have to expect him to only get stronger over time. The Orioles could use more pitching in their farm system, which they have a very good farm system already, but they have a lot of position players in their farm system, and you can never have too much pitching. They might as well add more pitching and add another young pitcher in Cash Mayfield. At number 33, I have the Twins taking a right-handed pitcher, and that's Braylon Doughty, a high schooler from California. Fastball gets up to 97 with a strong curveball and a good slider as well. He can reach around 3,000 RPMs with his breaking ball, which is elite depth. At number 34, I have the Brewers taking a shortstop, and that's Tyson Lewis out of Millard West High School in Nebraska. Plus speed with the strong arm as well. He has had issues at the plate with swinging on pitches outside the zone. Still only 18 years old, a lot of room to grow. Would be a good pick here for the Brewers, who have been very good at developing young talent over the last few years. As for the Diamondbacks, I have them taking shortstop Kaylin Culpepper out of Kansas State at number 35. He hit .328 this past season with a .574 slugging percentage, a .993 OPS with 11 home runs and 17 stolen bases. A strong arm will likely keep him probably on the left side of the infield at the next level, maybe even right field potentially one day, but I think he's probably more of a shortstop or third baseman at the next level. We'll see how things work out. He's not a power bat, but the upside as a contact hitter is definitely there, and that's definitely something that can help him try to make it through the minor leagues. At number 36, the Guardians taking a right-handed pitcher, and that's Bryce McCage out of the Pennington School in New Jersey. He did not allow a single hit in his 5 starts in high school this past season. He had 22 no-hit innings as a senior. He has a plus fastball that reaches up to 95 miles an hour. The issue for him has been control. That's something he has to improve upon, but he is still very young. At number 37, I have the Pirates taking Ryan Waldschmidt out of Kentucky, an outfielder who had 14 home runs, 46 runs batted in, a .333 batting average with a .1079 OPS, and 25 stolen bases. He has showcased big power potential. He's also played some third base in the past as well, but likely will not go back there again. I think he's probably just an outfielder at the next level. He's a very disciplined player at the plate. At number 38, I have the Rockies taking a catcher, and that's Jacob Kozat out of NC State. He had 19 home runs, 54 runs batted in with a .305 batting average and a .1038 OPS this past season for the Wolfpack. He's been one of the best catchers in college baseball over the last few years. Saw him play my senior year at BC, which I saw him play, and he was a very, very good defensive catcher and has a solid arm. At number 39, I have the Royals taking a left-handed pitcher, and that's Jonathan Santucci out of Duke. Was a top high school pitching prospect from Massachusetts in 2021. Ended up going to Duke. Was 6-1 with a 3.41 ERA in 13 starts, with 90 strikeouts and 58 innings pitched. He has a 92 to 96 mile-an-hour fastball with a solid changeup. Would be a good pick here overall for the Royals. So we'll see how things work out in this year's draft. As I said, Mike Sirota is my favorite prospect in this year's draft. I've been a big fan of his since I saw him play at Northeastern. And obviously when you watch him play, you can see the talent on film and in person. Excited to see where he ends up in the draft. I think he's the biggest gem in this year's draft, considering a lot of people are sleeping on his talent. But it doesn't matter where you're drafted, what team you drafted to, what pick you're taking at. When you get a chance, obviously, to play at the next level, you got to make the most of it. And I know that's something Mike is going to do, especially after seeing him play so much in Northeastern. I know he has the talent to compete with anyone in the country. We'll see how things work out in this year's draft for him and all of these other prospects I talked about. Wishing every prospect out there the best of luck. Obviously, that's what the best part of the MLB draft is. You see a lot of players have their dreams come true. I do apologize for going quick. Do have a lot going on, so I just wanted to make sure to get this episode out before the draft began. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.